Hi, I'm Steve Erickson from midlifesolopreneur.com.
And I'm Jake Erickson from flowcampaigns.com. And this is our daily debrief.
In this short form podcast, we'll give an update on what we've been working on for the day. And so you basically can follow along with what we're doing and the progression of the Midlife Solopreneur journey. And we'll share some helpful tips and strategies along the way as well, so you can implement these in your own solo business.
Yep.
So, Jake, what's the date today and what number are we at in our progression?
So today is August 9th, and this is episode 14 of the podcast. And we are now live again, or recording this on the actual day that we're saying we're recording it. So yesterday was our pre-recorded episode while you were traveling.
Yeah.
And now we're back in the studio.
Yeah. So what I'm going to talk today about is to be purposeful. Now, for me, when you're doing anything to do with marketing or attending a summit or presenting at the summit or whatever you do with your business, you need to be purposeful. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that you have to do it for a reason, and you need to be very, very clear on that reason. Are you doing the activity because it's going to get you subscribers, for instance? Mm-hmm. Are you doing the activity because it will enhance your conversion? Are you doing the activity because you will be getting more people into a strategy session? Whatever it is, you need to understand your purpose for doing it. And the reason for that is very simple. You cannot hit a goal you don't have, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a purpose for doing something, it's an activity that will just take up a lot of your time, probably, and you'll be going ahead and doing it, and you have no way of measuring what kind of success you had. You can't measure how well you did in this particular activity. So let me give you an example. I'm going to be participating in a summit, and in that particular summit, I'm going to be speaking. Now, why am I participating? Because I want to increase my list. I want to have more people subscribing to my list so I can market to them later. There is another speech I have to do, to make another meeting presentation I have to make. On that particular one, I don't really worry about my list. I'm doing it to get the experience of being a presenter, right? Now, when I'm looking at my experience of being a presenter, I will be looking at how did I perform? What mistakes did I make? What could I do better? What would I change about the way I did it? Right? That's a very different outcome and a way of looking at it compared to the other one where I'm speaking specifically to get subscribers onto my mailing list. Then what I do is I look at my subscriber numbers before and after. I measure how many people will come into my list.
Yep.
Then when I'm speaking the next time on a summit or similar summit or the same one, I can then measure, how do I do this time? Am I doing better by having more people in? Or are there more relevant people? Or are there less people?
Yeah.
Right? So whenever I say be purposeful, it's because I want you to have a reason for what you're doing and why you're doing it. And really understand why you're doing it. Because if you're not doing it for a particular purpose, to achieve a particular result, then you have to ask yourself, why are you doing that and not something else instead that can get you a better result?
And I think that's a good point there. You know, depending on what it is you're doing, your approach will be different depending on what your goal is. So as you mentioned, you know, speaking at a summit to grow your list versus speaking at an event for an experience.
Yeah.
You know, when you're trying to get experience, you might be more risky and try out different things and see what the reaction is. Versus if it is potentially a commercial opportunity, you might want to play it safer and do what you know works to get the result that you're looking for.
Yeah. So to give an example of that is if you have a speech that's already converting, you might want to say, okay, for this one, I'm going to try out a new presentation to see how it convert differently. Then you can compare the numbers. How did I convert before? How do I convert with this new one, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and also important when you're building out sales funnels, for instance, you look at split testing. So you would try different versions of a web page to see how the conversions are changing. Yeah. And in that, very specifically, you're defining what it is. Firstly, that's changing between the two pages, and then you're also looking at the specific results. I know for every 100 people who come to this web page, what percentage of them will buy from me, and that's something very concrete that you can track there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
what about you, Jake? Have you got anything today?
So today I've been nerding out a little bit, not really working on anything kind of business related. So for my Mac, I've downloaded a program called Keyboard Maestro, And basically what it is you can automate different tasks on your computer just by pressing a button. It just takes quite a bit to set up actually and get it right. And a lot of my macros are breaking on me. But it was a fun experience and a good day off just to play around with doing that. But I think you can have a takeaway from this as well that actually does apply to business. And, if there's a task that is very repetitive or low energy to do, you might want to look at how you can outsource that or get it done for you. So as an example, I can now press a button and it resizes all my windows on my computer exactly how I want them. And that's just one example of it saving me time by not having me to do a manual process. And I kind of draw parallels between this and what Jenny does. She will go into the studio and record voiceover. So she's a voiceover artist. But she doesn't do the recording. Oh, she does the recordings, but she doesn't do the editing of the recordings herself. We actually have someone who does the audio editing. So we'll send them the file. They'll clean the audio. They'll cut it into the right length and then send it back to us. And this is an example of finding a process that is pretty manual and takes a lot of time and finding another way to get that done. So using someone like a virtual assistant or using a freelancer, for instance, to take part of the workload off there. So I've essentially been playing around with that and finding ways that I can automate things on my computer. And my real tip for today is, see what can be done for you and see if there's a way to automate that. Is that using a calendar scheduling software to book people in for sessions with you? Or is that having a virtual assistant, for instance, to comb through your promotional emails and only send the important ones to you? So there are a lot of different ways that you can take the workload off you to make sure that you're focusing on the things that do matter and require most of your attention rather than things that are filling up that time as well.
Yeah, one quick example of that is we are hosting a summit in 3 weeks. And we are sending out forms with requesting information from the speakers. And that information from the form doesn't just get sent to us by email, but it will also go directly into our mailing list manager so we can send out mailings and updates to the speakers, for instance. That's just different things of automation that can be done. I can also say that having seen Jake's system in action, I'm very impressed by the way he can change his Spotify playlist very, very easily now by clicking a button. And
it's true.
And he gets either his deep concentration work music or his relaxation music or whatever he wants. So, yes.
And actually, I think you brought up a good point there. In a way, me playing around with this is similar to how you use something like ActiveCampaign. Yeah. You can build out automations in ActiveCampaign. So when someone subscribes to a list, for instance, you'll send them a series of emails. Now, this is really the same thing where it's an automated procedure. So you don't have to retype an email every time and send it specifically to every single person. The mailing manager will do that for you. Yeah. So it really it's worth looking what automations and systems can you build to save some of that energy on your part as well.
Absolutely. So I think that's a wrap for this episode.
Yep.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.